Hi guys. So I wanted to take a moment to create this video for those of you who believe that it's too late, you feel overwhelmed, you can't see a path forward, and whatever thoughts that you have in your mind in order to get you out of that situation, wherever it is that you are right now, whatever that turmoil, that challenge is that you're experiencing, you're thinking to yourself that it's not worth pursuing or doing that thing because it's too late, number one, or number two, you think it's going to just take too long. So, to keep myself honest, I wrote this book, Create Your Own Table, A Guide to Discovering Your Purpose, last year. As a matter of fact, to be very specific, I first started writing this book the first day that I sat, and I actually, for those of you who are familiar with this story, you've heard this before, but for those of you who don't know, I actually didn't traditionally write this book. I used speech to text technology. That means that I sat on the corner of my living room, which is where I am right now. I'm actually in my kitchen, and right there in the corner, and I spoke the words out. And I knew I wanted a book at about 50,000 words. And frankly, I realized that after about 2 hours, I was able to speak 16 to 18,000 words. So in 5 short days, I had the frame and the structure of this book done. But seeing is believing for those of you who doubt that what I'm saying is true. And so in here, hopefully you can see it, February 4th, February 4th, 2025. There it is, right there in black and white, printed in a book that is on the market right now. Today, as I am recording this, it is February 2nd, 2026. So when it was on my heart to write this, actually, you know what? Let me just read it to you. When I finally sat down to write on February 4th, 2025, a day that felt both ordinary and extraordinary, the wider world was in a state of flux. Significant shifts occurring both in the United States and abroad. Now tell me, I could be talking about February 2026, but I'm writing these words in February 2025. An undercurrent of uncertainty, of change, rippled through communities and industries alike as massive layoffs in both the private and public sectors made headlines, affecting hundreds of thousands of lives. People were feeling the weight of economic and social transitions, and the pain was palpable. One more time. I could have been writing this right now, and it would be absolutely relevant, as relevant today as it was a year ago. And I think the most striking realization is that when I was looking at the news, when I was sitting here a year ago, and I'm listening to the news, and I'm just like, hold on a second. It was just about 5 months before I was having a conversation with someone who, after 30 years, was fired unexpectedly. And and I actually share that story in this book. They were so shaken up because they thought that they were actually going in to get a raise, and instead they got terminated after over 30 years. And I realized in that moment, as I'm sharing, well, this is what you should do, and this is the other thing. And I had all these ideas because I understood. I understood the challenge that they were feeling, but I also realized the value of the knowledge that they possessed. And I'm like, this is not about salvaging anything. This is about standing on what it is you already have, all these things that you know. And I am super excited. And I look back now and I'm realizing, okay, so I might have been a little bit overzealous, but not to be insensitive. But I could see something that they couldn't. Because they were in this emotional turmoil, they were not able to see the opportunity that was actually in front of them. Because unfortunately, even after having so much knowledge and so many years of experience, they simply didn't value the knowledge that they had. And as I sat there and I'm looking at the television, which is right there, and I'm seeing all this stuff happening, and I was just like, hold on a second. I need to write this book now. And I remembered feeling that sense of urgency and anxiety at the same time because this was, I believe it was February 2nd. So exactly a year to the date. It was February 2nd when I was looking at the news and I was just like, oh my goodness, I need to do this. But what if I get this done and it's going to be too late because all of this would pass and things would be better? Not in a million years could I have imagined that a year from now things would get worse. Somehow that was just not even in my thought process, in my mindset at all. And so I'm in this panic to get this book done. And I remembered that I also reached out to my publisher, not my publisher, my editor. So I am self-published, just to clarify that part. So I did have control over the publishing process. That is another reason I was able to get this book out so quickly. But I reached out to the editor that edited my previous book, Pivot, because life doesn't always go as planned. And I realized, again, I knew I wanted a book at about 50,000 words. I knew that at speaking, 16 to 18,000 words in 2 hours, in 5 days, I was like, okay, this is going to be done, but I need another 2 weeks to make it all make sense because the way that we speak and the way that we write is totally different. That part was very nightmarish, besides the point. But I transcribe a number of lessons and just pull different things to make this book into the tool that I knew it could be to provide guidance and support for when you feel like your entire life has been just upended. And I remember reaching out to the editor and saying to her, look, please be ready for this book. And I believe I said to her, give me until the 24th of February. I'll have it to you by then, because I knew most of the time to make this into something that was engaging and readable and interesting, like most of that time would be spent with the editor, but the information I knew I had possessed. And I'm taking the time to share this because I fell into that trap myself, not realizing, my goodness, the value of the knowledge that we have and how our lived experience, even the negative stuff, even the challenging things, the supposed failures that I am so eternally grateful for, because if I didn't have those failures, I would have nothing to sell. I would have no brand. I would have nothing to share. What good would I possibly be if I didn't have those failures that taught me? But more importantly, I often say that those failures, they are education essentially without student debt at the end, because it's life. And I know we are all going through an extraordinarily challenging time right now that feels impossible to navigate. I also know that when you're going through that emotional upheaval, it's very difficult to even really process that there is an upside. And I would humbly like to offer Create Your Own Table, a guide to discovering your purpose, as a tool. I also wanted to share that one of my YouTube posts that you would see in my channel, that would have been, I believe this would be towards the end of 2024. The title is Your Job is Not Your Identity. And I also refer to it here, where I provide those tips for if you lose a job unexpectedly, these are the different things that you can do. But the entire premise is that you may be listening to this and you may not be impacted by a sudden job loss, but you may be feeling that yearning, that question inside of you where nothing's necessarily wrong, but you don't really feel quite right. And so with that, I wanted to take the time to honor the journey that I have been on and the journey collectively that we are all on, and invite you to my event on International Women's Day. And so that is March 8th. The link is in the bio. It would be my honor if you would join me for Sip, Sign, and Mingle, an opportunity to just chat, connect with individuals who are like-minded, who may be going through the challenges that you are, who may be feeling similar experiences to you, but just know that you are part of a community and you are not by yourself. But more than anything else, know that the knowledge that you already possess has tremendous value, and you could actually leverage that knowledge. The entire reason that I opened up this video showing you that on February 4th, 2025 was the day that I sat to write this book, and we are now having this conversation a year later on February 2nd, 2026, is because number one, we live in a time and an age of technology where things don't have to take as long as it previously did. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't take action because we are encumbered by the story that we are telling ourselves. This supposed truth that keeps us stuck and keeps us shackled, or even worse, individuals who are around us who, bless them, are well-meaning, but unfortunately, all they're able to share are their own experiences. And I don't mean this in any type of disrespectful way, but many times when people share experiences, opinions with us, it's because they want to keep us safe. And especially if you have just gone through a traumatic experience, the guidance typically errs on the side of caution, and that caution prevents you from moving. And so realizing that the language that we use trains our brain, allow me to deposit this. We all have a calling that's on our soul, that's in our heart, that thing that we want to do. Allow me to leave you with this. What if you decided to pursue that thing that didn't make sense? Not because it's a monetary goal, but because it's a soul goal. You want to just allow your soul to speak. Feel that sense of fulfillment because right now you're likely doing that thing that makes sense, but it's not filling you with any level of fulfillment. So today, why not choose you? I would love to hear from you. I would love to know in the comments what that thing is for you that doesn't make sense. And tell me your soul goal instead. As always, guys, I hope this serves, and I definitely hope that I see you on International Women's Day, March 8th, 2026, from my live in-person book event in New York City. Just click on the link below. Take care and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.